For new back in from the holidays, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all of that good stuff. So, why am I even talking about EVs? I know in the past I have all but given EVs in general a tongue bath. Every time I've talked about them, I've just gushed over how convenient they are, how fast they are, all of that kind of stuff. But there's a certain reality with me about EVs. See, if you've ever noticed, it's kind of difficult to get excited about EVs right now. And I wanted to walk you guys through some of the reasons why I'm not really quite yet on board with this whole EV phenomenon. Let's dive right in the middle of it. One of the issues that I have first and foremost with EVs is the cost. And I'm going to talk about cost briefly because I get it. Everybody has a budget. Some people's budget is, for lack of a better way of putting it, unlimited, and others is very, very focused. But the reality is no matter where you fall in line, you will be paying more for an EV in general. And the sad part about it is that even if you wanted to be part of the marketing narrative of saving the polar bears or the pygmy fidget or whatever it is, you better have bank if you're getting into the EV world, or you better be able to afford the lack of creature comforts that are going to come with the price point that you're looking at. Now, I get it. This latest crop of EVs is promising to be less expensive. The Ford Lightning, the base model trucks, are threatening to only be $40,000 to $50,000. Wow, gee, what a bargain. The problem is that they're too damn expensive, regardless of the performance point or range, which is a real shame because, again, most of the people that would be attracted to that type of a vehicle for those reasons typically, statistically, based on age group anyway, don't have the means to get there. So they're constantly looking up at an EV. And to them, the thought is that that is a step up. Imagine the disappointment when you sit in this entry-level EV and it is less well appointed than your XB that you just got through trading in. That's kind of the issue that I have, is that there's very little value for the end result vehicle that you have, regardless of government rebates or whatever, which, by the way, not every country has. Countries like Australia have nothing to do with rebates on electric vehicles. You're in it for the full Monty on that. So, starting off, I'm going to complain about the cost. And again, it's not one of these sour grapes things. I don't like EVs because it's just too expensive. I can't afford it is what I'm thinking in my head. But I'm just going to say I don't like it in general. No, it's not that. It's that at any price, you get less creature comforts, less luxury, less well appointed, certainly less of an impression of initial quality. That's to say the least. So, rant number one, price point and value. But it gets even worse than that, because I'm going to take that value just a step further. If you want an EV, but you can't afford an EV, but you can afford a used EV, now you're really behind the eight ball. Think of it like this. How do you set the value for an electric car? In terms of durability, wearability, serviceability. How long do these batteries really last? What is the performance envelope that you can actually truly expect to get? 80,000 miles, 120,000 miles, 200,000 miles? I'm confused by this because for every claim that you've seen, there's been basically a reality that comes in play with that. And reality has a funny little way of dropping a check elbow on the hopes and dreams of the people that are kind of wishing their way through this process. See, here's the thing. I am of the opinion, not that I know this for a fact, but if you have a 6-year-old EV or a 7-year-old EV and your battery realistically is only at an 87% full range, that's a bit of a problem, considering that the range is typically overshot by about 15%. Now we've only got 87%, call it 85, just so the math is easier. So now we've got a 30% reduction in range, just in general from what the vehicle was rated at. So that's a bit of a problem. And if you want to recapture that range and the power that comes along with it, because if you lose range, you're losing milliamp hours, which means you're losing discharge capacity. If that's going to be the case, how much is a new battery? About how long does it take to get the new battery? I mean, you're going to have to wait 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 months to get this battery for your car? How long will the battery be serviced for? All of these questions need to be answered, and it's creating a bit of a problem on the used car lots. How many people are thinking about this, and how soon do you want to start messing with it? I guess you could say that the EVs are like a lease opportunity that you just can't possibly compare with an internal combustion engine. Well, I guess you could. Mercedes-Benz and BMW would like to have something to say about that. But the problem is that your expensive, not luxury car is on pace or worse in some cases than your expensive luxury, use that word loosely, brand cars of Mercedes and BMW. Have you ever checked into the depreciation on a Mercedes and a BMW? Look, you might be able to afford the car, but you cannot afford the depreciation, which is unfortunately where I'm seeing these values of these EVs. And I'll take it another step further than that. If the cost of the EV is going to, this is a used EV now that we're talking about, is at some point going to include the cost of a new battery pack, what does a new battery pack cost? I mean, I don't want to hear about what the battery pack costs from the manufacturer. That's going to be astronomical. At least $10,000, 8 to 10, depending on the model. Are we still looking at 5? That's sounding good. Are we looking at $5,000? Let me put it to you in these terms. $5,000 is about what a Blueprint 383 would cost if I wanted to throw one in Sierra. And that would be a whole lot of fun. For about another $500, I could put another $400 in the thing. I don't know that I'm going to get that level of satisfaction from a gigantic one of these things. There's no real romance in buying a new battery pack for your car. And here's the other thing. My work truck, which gets driven a lot every single day, has 140,000 miles on it. Can you believe that? 140,000 miles. I'll be honest with you. I think it runs better now than it did when the truck was brand new. And I mean that in all sincerity. My Draggy would agree with that statement. So, before I get to you guys, I want to get this first part of the monologue done here, but if the cost is not a concern, then the cost of the vehicle, then the cost of depreciation and the cost of the battery pack are going to be a Siamese twin that you're going to have to deal with at some point, provided you keep the car for what would possibly consider to be long-term, 5-7 years. See, the other end of this is that most people nowadays are keeping their cars for about 8 to 10 years. And depending on which study you look at, you may even see numbers as high as 11 to 12 years now. People are keeping their cars for a lot longer. And yeah, you can say, well, at some point, the cost of gas would be absorbed by the extra money that you put into the car. Maybe, but at some point, if you're buying a new battery that is basically the same cost of an engine, like that is literally the same cost as going and buying a new engine for the thing because it runs out of engine at 140,000 miles. Work truck, 140,000 miles, burns the tires down the street, acts like it's a teenager. Electric car with 140,000 miles, problems? Like engine cost problems? See, that's what gets me, is that even if that is the case, and you say, oh, it's just a battery. Well, now we're going to start talking about environmental impact. But before I do that, let me catch up with you guys. Sovereign saying, sup, beast, first in, Michael Corleone saying, good evening, Professor Mason, got the flex, I like it. Randy's checking in from Middle Tennessee, I like that. Bruce is in saying, good evening, B, got the flex. Welcome, everybody, the real direct connection expert. Thank you, buddy. Patrick McCullen saying, good evening to you, Patrick. Gary's in. Frederick is in. What's up, brother? Hold on. Let me get my Frederick. There you go. Sovereign saying used EV equals used battery headache for sure. Sovereign saying I just don't see the batteries lasting as long as internal combustion for sure. Marco saying, got the C7 Corvette Stingray. What do you think? One of my favorite cars to drive is what I know about that car. Ken is saying, evening B and bracket racing pro class EVs are the equivalent of transgender athletes. You know, I've never seen a female go into male sports. It's always been males going into female sports in that endeavor. I think there was one or two girls that were trying to do, like, it was one girl in Texas that was jacked, bunch of testosterone. Anyway, she would have not been able to be a participant in the male class because I think she would score too high on a test scale. It's the only one that I know, but you never see chicks going into men's sports. You see a lot of men going into women's sports. I have a problem with that because I have sisters that were college athletes. So I'm saying battery degradation is real. This translates to capacity loss. Exactly. Randy saying, recently there was an article about an owner with a Tesla 3 and the dealer price on replacement of a battery was what the fuck? $22,000. Of course, aftermarket cheaper, but still. And that's, listen, you send me a bill for $22,000 for a battery, you better have already called 911 before you do that. Sovereign saying capacity is range loss. Absolutely it is. Goldberg's checking in saying, had to go back to watch that clip of you slamming gears and Foxy. Very good. Can I get a fourth gear grin for old time's sake? Damn right you can. Sovereign saying lithium ion batteries tend to age, losing capacity. I'll give an example. This is a lithium polymer battery. If you're not familiar with these types of batteries, these have the highest discharge per mass of commercially available batteries. See, this is a RC type battery. Here's the funny thing about it. This is a 4-cell 6600 milliamp hour, which is questionable. Anyway, it'll discharge to the tune of in full load, you're looking at about what, like 2800, 3000 watts. Anyway, it's just shy of roughly like 3 to 4 horsepower, depending on how the motor's geared and all this other stuff and how much load you can run through it. Lots of power, but lithium ion ain't gonna last. So I'm saying great example is that of a laptop battery. Laptop batteries don't last long. They lose capacity quickly. Yeah, they do. This is the caveat of lithium ion technology. Yep, that's why they go to lithium ferrous. They can handle a lot more charge discharge cycles, but they're more expensive. Someone saying, I have a laptop I bought in 2020 and I've hardly used the battery and its health is now 94%. I've lost 250 milliamp hours. I don't doubt it. Some are saying we need a robust battery technology that can go the distance of an internal combustion engine. It's getting there, but it's not there yet. Chuck's saying, hello everyone. Someone saying those lipos puff up bad. What's funny, have you ever seen a lipo pop? So if you damage a lipo, you can cause an internal short circuit. And when they do that, they'll start off-gassing internally. They swell up and they can pop, and it looks like a firework going off. Definitely not recommended. Oh, Shift is saying they should mix boosted setups with EV systems like F1. Yeah, the hybrids. You can. He's saying EV muscles transgender. Greg saying, do you think the new 1320 Challenger will be better investment than my 2017 yellow Hellcat 6-speed with 2,000 miles? Man, listen, there's an ass for every seat, brother. I don't know if we're talking about investment, like true investment. The thing is the downside of a 1320, and as much of a soft spot as I truly do have in my heart for those cars, the downside of a 1320 is that it's still a 6.4. So, there's no gear upgrade. There's nothing like that. There's some software updates, but that's about it. I would say that the Hellcat would be the better investment. There's always going to be a buyer for a Hellcat. A lot of guys will look at a 1320, and unless the 1320 is a rear seat delete car, in some cases, even maybe it's a 1320 with a one seat option, which is out there. I know a guy that's got one, as a matter of fact. That might be a little bit more collectible, but not necessarily more collectible than a Hellcat per se. You would have to find somebody that's looking for that exact car that you have. So we're saying battery better. Cal's is saying if you hold on to them, both will have value. Yeah. I'm not sure about the 1320. I like the 1320 a lot. The shaker is actually a little bit more of a throwback, and it's got a little bit, you can translate a shaker hood better than you can the 1320 emblem. But anyway, that's, like I say, but they do both carry value. This depends on how they're optioned. So talking about the value, the cost, and everything else on the EVs, I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. But the cost of the environment. So the first issue that I have is the cost to me as a consumer. The second issue that I have is the cost to the environment. The issue that I have is that EVs have a lot of things that you can sell me on. And I'm an easy mark. Honest to goodness, I'm really an easy mark for EVs. I love the convenience of just, filling her up in the garage. I don't have to worry about the octane rating of the electricity that I put into the battery tank. It just doesn't matter. But what I hate to death is trying to be sold the idea that somehow or another the car is better for the environment somehow. And in looking into how the batteries are made and where the material that the battery is made of, where that comes from, you start looking at it and it's almost like one of these like blood diamond type of a scenario, like the cobalt for it, for the batteries and some of the other raw materials comes from some pretty, sketchy places. It's not like you're just going down to Dollar General, buying a pack of, kind of cells and throwing them in the car and calling it good. No, these batteries are ultra sophisticated. They require some pretty sophisticated raw material to make. And unfortunately, you've got to strip mine to get them. So that's a bit of a problem. And by the way, I get it. There's some damage done to the environment by, dragging oil out of the ground, but best believe you're not running gigantic excavators and tearing up entire swaths of land to drag up oil, at least not in that respect. And the other side of it is, well, you're using diesel-powered contraptions the whole time you're digging this stuff up. See, the thing that people don't realize is that there's not EV excavators, all right? You don't have plug-in track hose. You don't have wind-up rock grinding equipment. It does not work like that. You've got big Caterpillar, Komatsu machines that are out there dragging this stuff out of the ground. Hell, if it weren't for internal combustion engines, how would you even get any of that stuff? Then it's got to be shipped on a boat. I'm sorry, a ship that's about the size of a football field or larger, And that's got to come across an amount of land, or water rather, after it's gone over an amount of land, to then go over the water, then go over another amount of land to get where it's going to be processed, smelted, and turned into a battery, and then shipped across land and water again. I don't know the actual numbers on this because, well, do you trust any of the numbers that you see? But the reality is that you're talking about lots of gasolines and diesels fuels getting burned to make the batteries before you even put them in your car. And then the car, once it gets the battery, has to be trucked to its location. They don't put them in tubes and slide around to your local Tesla or Ford or whatever dealership. Kind of ironic, wouldn't you think? Ooh, my electric car that's literally spent the last 6 months of its life as raw material being shipped all over the planet and then driven to its final destination, so to speak, driven to the store by way of diesel truck. It sounds to me like the car is basically powered by diesel at this point. So, selling me on the fact that it's green is a little bit hard to do. Now, when it comes to the electricity that you pump into the car, you can maybe make a case for that. I mean, if you've got solar panels all over your yard and your roof, and you've got, I don't know, solar windmills in your backyard, and those are spooling up, and you've got a waterfall, and you're doing hydroelectric or tidal electric. There's all different kinds of ways to get electricity without using fossil fuels. The problem is, statistically, you ain't getting your electricity from those sources. You're getting it from good old coal. And that's the thing that you don't understand, is that even going into this, you're burning the most unsexy fuels you can possibly think of. The irony is palatable. So let me get this straight. You've got diesel excavators and heavy equipment digging up the minerals out of the ground to make your batteries. All the rest of the stuff that it goes into making the car, all of that is diesel powered on some level, which everybody that tries to sell the environmental aspect is rah about diesels. The ships that are carrying this thing are running on heavy fuel oil, which is basically just a downgraded version of kerosene or diesel. It gets back on a truck, the bits and pieces, the kibbles and bits get put onto a truck, taken to another place powered by diesel. By the time it's done, this thing has spent more time in an 18-wheeler than BJ McKay or his best friend Bear. And the sick thing about it is that then it will be powered by coal. I think on the tier of sexiness of fossil fuels, coal has got to be on the very bottom of that. But in a way, I guess you can say it's solar powered. It's just that the solar that was used to make the plants that turned into coal was kind of carboned up about 65 Brazilian years ago. So there's that to contemplate. So your ultra sexy, good for the environment car conveyance, really at this stage of the game, is more or less born through diesel fuel and powered by coal. This is sounding a little bit sweaty to me. Like it's not really all that sexy or appealing anymore. Basically, at this stage of the game, you're either looking at the EV through an Instagram filter, y'all know what I'm talking about with that, or you're looking at it on the other side of the screen. You got to see it for what it is. Call it for what it is. But the EV manufacturers don't market it that way, which is messed up. What is it with marketing that they never get this right? They market it as being hip, and it's basically a cell phone on wheels, and it does the fast thing, and it's clean for the environment. If I'm the guy on the marketing end, I'm going, look, yeah, I'm turning all of your nasty diesel fuel that we use to make this car into freaking butterflies. How about that? Yeah, it's powered by coal. So are trains. This thing will freight train your Mustang. How about that? We're going to train on your mom. So how do you want to talk about? I will market this beautifully. But the fact of the matter is that nobody does. And it feels like I'm being sold a burlap sack and having it called itchy silk. You ever get that? Like, what is vegan leather? There's no such thing as vegan leather. It's pleather. It's fake leather. It's faux leather, but it's nothing vegan about it. Shit's made out of oil. It's plastic. So it's kind of like that for me. You know, it just gives me the creeps. But that's really kind of the point, though, is that the way that the thing is marketed is that it's so great for the environment. But the reality of it is that it's not. And speaking of marketing, here's something else that they tend to screw up. Before I get into it, I want to touch base with you guys, but what this is going to have to do is marketing for performance. I mean, we've talked about marketing for how great they are for the environment, which they're not. Because again, we get back into the whole life cycle of the car. Remember, they're talking about the vehicle is great for the environment, but not taking into account that the life cycle of the battery and the fact that we have to start all over again. See, this is starting to look a lot like that episode of South Park where they take the old people with the gold and they take the gold and then they go to the money for gold, and the gold goes to the smelter, and the smelter gets made into that ugly ass trinket that gets bought. And then they get returned. It's kind of like that. So I guess where I'm going with that is you're marketing something as being environmentally friendly, but the cost of the environment, especially once you have to start making batteries for the thing, and the cost that's associated with that means it's not only inexpensive anymore, regardless of what you spend in fuel, but it's also not healthy for the environment anymore once you've got to create this new battery. And save me everything about recycling of the battery. Let me tell you something. That industry doesn't exist yet. You know, people talk about we can just create this industry. What cottage industry is going to evolve that will be recycling batteries? Do you realize there are so many toxic chemicals, etc., in these batteries? It's not like you're going to go to Frank's Bank Shop and Battery Recycling Center. It doesn't work like that. There is some caustic ass stuff in these batteries that you're going to have to deal with. This is hazmat type stuff. The point that I'm making with this, what I'm offering to you is, will the cost of recycling the battery be more than just buying a new battery? Because if the cost to recycle the battery is more than buying the new battery, that industry doesn't exist. It just turns into scrap. So instead of refurbishing and recycling, you're scrapping and recycling. Kind of hard to do. Now, I've heard different stories about people saying, well, I mean, you could upcycle the batteries, you could use it to charge lawn equipment, you can do this, that, and then. Okay. Again, cute idea. If you can monetize it, great business plan for about 50 people in the United States. And then you just don't really go anywhere with it after that. So cost to the person, cost to the environment, market it a certain way, sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors. You're not saving the planet. Don't let anybody lie to you about that. That's the biggest fallacy with all of this. But we'll get to the performance part of it here in just a second. Let me check in with you guys real quick. So we're saying EV or Scat Pack? Scat Pack, no question, for sure. Eric saying, what up, Professor B? Got the flex. I like it. Cal saying, I just ordered a 2022 1320. It'll take 2 to 3 months. You're going to love that car. I really like the 1320s. Just as a car to drive and enjoy, they're a lot of fun. Shift is asking, is gas going up because of EV? No, gas is going up for a number of other reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with EVs. EVs only make up about 3 to 5% of the market right now. So no, it has nothing to do with that. PD saying none of them will ever be a 426 Hemi Charger. It is what it is. True. Cal saying if they care about the environment, why don't they just concentrate on nuclear power? I'll get to that in a minute. Summer saying the truth is it's a lie. EVs are not as environmentally friendly as they want you to think. No, they're not. Slow going to say my main thing is I love to mod my car and I don't know how. Never mod an electric car. You can mod an electric car, no question about it. You can definitely do it. The problem is most of it has to do with tuning, and it's all in torque management. Plus, I've got a way, I'm pretty sure you could basically make electric nitrous by just using capacitors, but yeah, you could definitely do it. Randy's saying China is the world's leading EV user. That's where all the batteries are. They're having a serious problem with all the used batteries being turned in. There's no large-scale recycling in place to deal with them. See what I'm saying? So I was saying, yeah, and China's using a lot of coal too. Yeah, they use a bunch of coal. Oh, Ryan saying more than 2/3 of the energy used by our power plant to generate and transmit electricity is wasted. True. The burning of any fossil fuel, there's a lot of there's a lot of thermal losses in that equation. It'd be a whole lot easier and a whole lot more efficient to go nuclear. I don't understand why that is not an option. Some are saying renewable energy is a minority, a very, very minority. Chuck's saying the main EV green soapbox is zero emissions, but like you said, it's ironic from its inception. Very true. Anthony's saying the person on his block that had Tesla's solar panels installed on their house, the two vans that showed up were Ford and a GMC gas truck. Nice. Shiv's saying EV's another scam. Yeah. So what I want to get into is, oh wait, hold on. Sovereign saying it takes energy to make energy. See, here's the funny thing. The law of conservation of energy seems to be forgotten. It's like they just didn't take any physics classes or science classes, or didn't think it through. The common sense aspect of this got a little bit lost, maybe. Say there's no miracle out of thin air. All you can do is find a way to produce that energy more efficiently. Yep. Like I say, there's ways to do it. It's just you got to put the cost in, or put the money in. The cost is not cheap. Sovereign saying exactly. Lead acid batteries are quite caustic. All batteries are actually. Cal's saying, yep. What about the batteries? So, getting into that, let me ask y'all something. So getting back into the marketing side of this, one of the things that I'm having a hard time with on the EV market, we talked about the cost, we talked about the cost of the environment. What about just the marketing in general of the cars? Let me ask y'all something. Have y'all ever seen a commercial for a Tesla Plaid? You ever think about that for a minute? Like you hear about Tesla Plaid. You've seen videos about Tesla Plaid. I've talked about Tesla Plaid. I've seen them run at the drag strip, but have you seen a commercial for a Tesla Plaid? Is there anywhere where you see Tesla Plaid and it's on a drag strip and it goes, yeah, and it goes really fast? You haven't. You haven't really seen any commercials for any of the EVs, save for the e-tron, and you maybe might see a Taycan commercial every once in a while. The e-tron's a good-looking car. If you didn't know any better, the e-tron would be the only electric sports car that's out there. Every once in a while, you'll see a blurb from Ford for the Lightning. The new Cadillac has been out there quite a bit. But you ever notice that the marketing on that isn't all that exciting, if it even exists at all. The Cadillac makes the car basically look like an extension of your iPad. The e-tron is dead sexy to look at. It's the only one that I've seen that is remotely interesting, but it doesn't show the car doing anything interesting other than just kind of rolling around. You never see the car with all four tires lit up. You never see the cars in a drift. You never see them doing anything fun. It's all very smug. It's all very arrogant. It's all very full of itself. It's got a very well-developed sense of scent for its own flatulence. And that's part of the issue that I have with EVs. Nobody has put together an ad campaign that has gotten me anywhere remotely interested in buying an EV because I don't want to be anywhere near the people that are in that ad. Perish the thought. How boring would those conversations be? I would probably drive that EV clean off of a cliff before I'd want to hear anything more about, I don't know, Buffy's problems with her filter not acting right on her Instagram. Or whatever problems people have today, like that. It is so conspicuously self-aware that it is embarrassing for me to watch. Again, the e-tron is pretty cool, and I like the ad for the e-tron, but that's a sports car. Why isn't it doing sports car things? I want to see that thing getting after it. I want to see it doing cool things. But they're not selling it as cool. They're not marketing it to you as cool, neat, fun. They're marketing it to you as a lifestyle, a life decision. They're offering it to you as really more of a, how do you put it, like a counterpoint to the vehicles that they used to sell you. Case in point, the Lyric, which is the Cadillac EV crossover SUV-ish looking thing. It's supposed to be you've seen these ads. You're trying to get the idea that it's a bold statement, but it's not a bold vehicle. This isn't like an Escalade. This isn't something butch or awesome to look at. This is realistically not the hip urban type rig that they're showing. This is going to be something for some tracksuit wearing soccer mom to roll around in, taking her crotch larva to freaking, I don't know, practice of some sport. It's not going to be cool. And it's going to be more or less a keeping up with the Joneses from an air of smugness that I just can't seem to get past. Hey, EV guys, EV marketing companies, sell me something that's exciting, please. Show me your vehicles doing something other than irritating everybody that's around them or thinking that they are better than everybody around them. Which gets me back to cost. That Cadillac contraption is going to be about $55,000. The e-tron is running somewhere, around $120,000? The Taycan, which is its sister car, the hot-rodded version of the e-tron, if you want to call it that. E-tron's a 1050 car. Taycan's a 1030 car. That thing is like $100,000, but you never see anything on Tesla. Tesla, arguably, is in the best place to have the most ridiculous marketing out there. The fastest, you name it, in terms of electric vehicles. And yet you never see it. And that's the problem. They're relying on social media, or at least YouTube, you would think, and owners of the car to go out there and do something with their cars, and that's supposed to be interesting. I don't know. I'm just having a hard time getting on board when every time I look at the ads or see the commercials, I'm bored. The term is get them on board, not make them more bored. The marketing skill set is not very deep with those folks. Marco's asking if it's worth it to put, I'm going to check in with you guys now. Marco's asking, is it worth it to put a 4-link rear in the red eye? No. You got guys running 130, 60 foots with the stock rear suspension. Don't worry about it. More importantly, just get a stickier tire if you're taking it to the track. Oh, Steven's saying nuclear power is the only one we should be talking about. I would agree with that. No emissions. Get a little meltdown every once in a while, but manage it. That's what science is for. 60 saying, Happy New Year, Dr. Mason. Who wants another Chernobyl? Well, nobody does, but it's compromises everywhere. Him saying, lottery, all the working that work at the battery company Delco, literally most of the folks will get, yeah, all the issues that they run into at the battery plants, yep. Brad saying, EV vehicles should be limited to city driving. I think a lot of them do that anyway. Let's see, Catalyst and Steven are hanging out. Warmed saying, thoughts on the new Tornado inline 6 turbo that are replacing the Hemis? Great show. Thank you. Big fan of it. You guys know that I am a sucker for an inline 6, and I'm a even bigger sucker for an inline 6 that is force fed. So get ready, because if they make this thing even remotely robust, it is going to be a nasty power plant for guys once they get their hands on it. So some will say give it a couple of years to go through, I don't know, development, but let's just say that dragging 800 horsepower out of that thing to the rear wheels is not going to be difficult at all. And say, oh, what about turbo lag? Well, do what everybody else does and hit it with a 100 shot out of the hole. It'll be sick. Oh, Callus is talking about nuclear power. Yep. Some are saying it's a Grey Poupon attitude with the EV for sure. Mario's saying EV is a perfect example of that. Fast can be boring. So that is going to bring me to my next topic, because, you know, we talked about the performance of the thing and the fact that they're just not marketing it. You don't see any marketing specific to the platform in that respect. I'll take that a step further. They are boring. There's nothing. It's like there's no redeeming quality. There's no sex to it. The thing about internal combustion engines, it doesn't matter which type you like. You could like inline 6s, boosted inline 6s, burly V8s, little high winding V8s or V10s. You can love and like all of that stuff all you want. The problem that you run into is that the EV, there's no sexing it up. And the big issue, you know, through the sound or the design or the smells or anything like that, the other issue is, how are you going to have like brand wars with EVs? It's the part of being a car guy or a tractor guy or motorcycle guy or whatever. They're very tribal in nature. And, you know, I might be a huge Kawasaki guy. You could be a huge Yamaha guy. Or I could be a big Ford guy and you could be a big Mopar guy. It doesn't matter. You're going to have your tribes, and every side has their inherent advantages and disadvantages. I can't get excited about an electric motor. Am I supposed to get excited about that? I don't care where the electric motor came from my ultra high-end, super high dollar Hercules blue drill with the light bulb on the end of it that you can't make you see shit. What do I care where this motor came from? It's a drill. I don't even care what brand it is. Well, you should, because it's the ultimate in drill technology, Hercules. But I don't care where this motor came from. But I happen to know a lot about third-gen Hemis. The point of it is that there's nothing cool about it. That motor could just as easily go into anything else and just be yet another appliance, the way that the drill is an appliance. And the electric motor turns the conveyance into just a transportation appliance. And so for me, that is the drawback of it. It's just not sexy. This is, the point was made that, the EV companies are proving a point that fast can be boring. It used to be fast was sexy, powerful was sexy. This is those companies proving that fast ain't sexy, at least not when it comes to EVs. Now, I will be more than happy to stand corrected if Stellantis, with the STLA large platform and everything that's supposed to be coming with it, if that platform turns out to be freaking awesome, then yeah, I'll 100% own that. But will it be? See, the thing is that no matter what, it's still going to carry that air of smugness. And I just don't know that, again, if I'm there yet. Now, keep in mind, this is a devil's advocate type of a video. I've, again, spoken in length about EVs. And like I said earlier, basically just gave them a tongue bath as far as how much I like them, how crazy, infinitely, really tunable an EV is from a dynamics standpoint, from a torque management standpoint. You have all the torque that the batteries could possibly give a motor from 0 RPM. I know all the good sides about it, but it's the intangibles. See, everything that I have ever said good about an EV, everything I've ever said about an EV that was positive had to do with objective criteria, quantifiable data. That's what I have always had to hang my hat on. But none of it on the subjective side, the side that appeals to emotion, the side that appeals to fun, seems to exist for me. So, not marketing it to its strength on the performance end, and then showing us things that are practically boring with people in the ads, except for the e-tron, but with people in the ads that would be, in my estimation, boring to be around. It's not a good way to bring folks into the fold, and it's a little bit too snooty. It's a little bit too smug for me at this stage of the game, which makes it difficult. So let me check back in with you guys. Chuck is saying the social dynamic has gotten so far away from muscle car culture. It is sad. I will never leave Mopar muscle for sure. Got the flex. Some are saying Merc and Mopar. Well, get ready because Mopar is going to have their e-muscle. So we'll see how far that takes us. Marcio is saying the traditional OEMs are getting it wrong. Tesla sell lots of cars because of novelty. Tesla's got a lot of cool gadgets and gizmos built into their car. But I guess where I'm going with this is I just don't. I know that Tesla Plaid is fast. But can I get something that doesn't look like a freaking lady's shoe? Like, I get it. It's fast, but look at the thing. I mean, can you make it run 9s, but kind of look cool too? Maybe have it do some cool stuff. Let's see. Oh, kind of blew past this. Hang on. Steven says, is it just me, or does anybody look back in the muscle car world of 2010 and realize what a golden age we lived in? The nastiest part of the golden age that we lived in would have been in let's see, when did we get the 6th gen, the ZL1 back? That would have been a nice time to be around again. Yeah, it definitely is part of the golden age. Slowly going fast, say they should come out with an SRT 4 Dodge Dart again if they want to go fast. I like those cars. Sovereign's hanging out with Slowly. Tesla reminds me of a muscle car made by Radio Shack. For real, man, I like that. Prime saying EV is sterile fast. True that. Ken saying most marketing companies target audiences 20-something girls and soy boys. Although Dodge is spot on and is the reason Dodge muscle cars and trucks are selling well. True that. The irony there is that the target market that they're pandering to can't afford the cars. Sovereign's laughing. Sovereign saying, I miss my Spirit fun little car. Those are neat cars. Red Dog saying the next Tesla upgrade, the Plaid, now drag races driverless. Hey, it'd be at a weight advantage. Oh, Heavy's saying no line lock and no burnout makes it too easy to race. Yeah, I hear that. Randy saying, I watched an eye-opening video on cross-country travel in EV from coast to coast. It was a nightmare. All the planning and charging and downtime was a huge pain. Bet it made it pretty tough to watch, too. So I'm saying EVs lack emotion. It's hard to personify an EV. Now, a V8, that's a living, breathing monster. It has emotion. That sound, that rage, you're not going to get that from an EV. No, you won't. V8's a visceral experience. EV is ho-hum. Well, that's the thing. I mean, everything in your house runs on an electric motor. So let me ask you something. When's the last time you got worked up over your refrigerator or your dishwasher or a hair dryer? I don't have to worry about. Anyway, a drill, electric razor, vibrate. There's so many things that run on electric motors. The starter in your car. All of these things don't matter to you. It's an appliance. It does something, and then that's it. It's done doing the thing. Nose hair trimmer. Yeah, it's like we're not conditioned to get worked up over an electric appliance. I mean, I get it. I want my blender to be able to make a good margarita, but I don't care if it's an Oster or a Wurlitzer or a I don't know, Contraptatorium. I don't care who makes it. I just need it to work. And this is the case where I literally don't care how the clock works. I just need to know what time it is. That's literally how I feel about electric motors. I don't care about them. They are part of the wallpaper practically. You take them for granted, but you just don't care about them so much. People saying drastic change is always hard to accept, but I'm very excited at the prospects of what new tech can bring. I'm trusting it will be fun. The thing is, it will be fun. It will be very exciting. It'll be extremely convenient. It'll be very fast, and it will be personalizable. The issue is that leading into this, I'm not being shown anything that's interesting. Fast is not a party trick that has any real staying power. Fun is. Convenience is, believe it or not. There's a lot of things that you can, and again, this is a devil's advocate video. And I've made videos really gushing in some ways over the prospect of EVs coming down the pipe and all the very awesome aspects about them. But for a lot of folks, they're just not there yet. And the big kicker is the one I think that I started off with, which I think a lot of guys would agree with, is that the cost of the dang thing is just too high. And look, it's at the point now where an average car cost is well into 30 some odd $1,000, but an EV with limited range is going to be somewhere around 40. I don't know, man. Just doesn't seem right. Doesn't sound right to me. Some are saying, oh boy, that Frigidaire. I actually have a Frigidaire refrigerator at home. Some are saying, my mixer mixes a mean cake. Hell yeah. Arthur's saying, yeah, I have to say the modern muscle car era started around 2009 to 14 Coyote, 5.8 supercharged. Actually, I can tell you exactly when it started. It happened actually a little bit before that. Happened way back in 1999. The Ford Lightning. That's really what kicked it off. From there, you had the Terminator Cobra, which gave birth to a whole lot of stuff. So, but yeah, it started really swinging in at about that point, but got its origins back then. Some will say that it really started in 1997 with the LS platform being released. George said, I hope drag strips don't become life-size slot car tracks for sure. Chuck saying there are Tesla trolls on every Dodge post on Facebook. I say the same thing every time. Challenger rules and looks and sound and driving experience. Tesla will be rivaled soon enough. True that. Hey, listen, celebrate while you are victorious. You don't want to find yourself in a position where a Tesla is looking up at a Dodge, which could very easily be the case. Especially if Dodge and Stellantis put that American flair and American flavor to those electric vehicles. That might be what tips the scales for a lot of guys. I can tell you this, though. I was talking to my wife about this. She ain't having it. So, I don't know how I sneak in an EV, but, Faithful Servant says, patient brother, future tech is amazing. Have faith. Oh, I know how, the thing is, I know how good it is already. And I know how much better it can be. And by the way, not to slip out of character on this, but you just don't know how nasty you can make an EV. You guys just haven't seen the tip of the iceberg yet. Or you're only seeing, rather, the tip of the iceberg. It is disturbing what you can do with electric motors in terms of performance and speed and power and handling even. And torque vectoring, the whole bit. But none of that matters if you can't afford it. None of that matters if that's a rich man's toy. None of it matters if it's being sold to you in a way that is so smug that you're turned off by it. So I can be told, and I can know, because I do understand this a lot better than what a lot of folks may lead on to, or may be led to believe. But not only do I understand how good it can be, I understand what it would take to hot rod these things. I understand what it would take to get more performance out of them. And I understand that if you don't sell the product the right way, nobody will buy it. So if it does everything amazing, but nobody can afford to buy it, or the people that do afford to buy it turn into douche wagons and try to go to every drag strip and pick and choose races against fast cars and take their transportation appliance and go troll them. Number one, try that shit at Houston Raceway Park. You might not leave with all your teeth, especially with some of the attitude that I've seen coming out of these guys. Secondly, it's only a matter of time before what is considered fast now is no longer considered fast. 920s could be a thing of the past, and hot rodding one of the new STLA larges into the 8s and going out and trolling Teslas is going to be the new pastime for some of these guys. They'll get their comeuppance, trust me. It always happens. But I can just tell you this. I can know everything that's good and still be critical, because nothing about that EV is perfect, especially when you look at how it's been marketed and how it's been politicized through very, very, I would call it revisionist science is the best way that I could explain how some of that has been brought to our attention. The aspect of it being pollution free by some. Red Dog's asking what I think of the Rivian. The Rivian's actually really sweet. I haven't seen one in person though. That's that truck. That's the one with the middle storage compartment thing, which I think is cool as hell. Ruben said, if you go to an EV drag race, bring earbuds to listen to it, makes them less boring. I don't know if I had one, I'd have to have the Jetsons car sound piped out of that thing somehow or another. The kids say, what really grinds my gears is that EV owners get a huge registration discount. In Arizona, I pay $1,000 a year for my Hellcat. Jesus. That's a lot. Texas, I think I pay $80 a year. Slowly's asking, Hellcat supercharger on 09 RT? You can. You got to get the adapter plates and you need to pin the crank. There's a lot that is going to have to be done. There's some machining of, I think I need to get a Hellcat front engine accessory drive. It's expensive. It's not a cheap endeavor. You'd probably be better off if you went with you always hear me talking about E-Force, so either E-Force or Whipple. Roy, thank you very much. Saying, preach it, brother. Got the thumbs up. I like it, man. Thank you for the contribution, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Canada guy's in saying, how's it going, Brian? What's up, Canada? EVs are coming. I think they can be good, but like you said, I think they are being pushed too quickly and too expensive at the moment, but I do hope Dodge can stand out. I think they will. Cal's asking, why did Dodge join forces with Alfa Romeo? It's because they're owned by the same parent company. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bette Midler doing a movie together. I don't know. I like Alfa Romeo. They're kind of sexy. Sophia Loren. Red Dog saying, Mopar redesigned 68 Chevy Impala SS EV. Modern redesigned 68 Impala SS EV. That'd be kind of cool. Actually, so it's funny you mentioned that. It's not a Impala, but there are companies that EV swap muscle cars. And there's one floating around of a satellite that's been, I guess, turned into a Roadrunner clone that is... I cannot stand the wheels. The old school cars, some of them, when you try to put 17 or 18 or 19-inch wheels on them, they look god awful. Anyway, this is one of those cars, and it's got some of those wheels. But either way, the car is pretty quick. Ruben saying, I had the pleasure to get called out by a Tesla Plaid. I ran a 932 at $148. To his 935 at 149. I treed the crap out of him and had 4 cars on him real quick. I got it on video and he was pissed. I love it. I love it. And the thing is we'll call out the Hellcat. We'll call it. These are not car guys. All right, ran over about the EV portion of that section. But look, these are not car guys. All right. These are people that know what a car is, that go and drive one of these things, that all have the look on their face, that blow-up doll look on their face when they floor it in one of these things. They see the videos and then immediately think that they bought the bully on the block, like they are the freaking hitman. And when they fuck around and find out, for lack of a better way of putting it, a lot of them get butthurt about it. And it's like, oh, this is what happens when smug gets snuffed out. Okay, I'll take it. So I like it. But Roy, thanks again. Ken, thank you, buddy. Appreciate that very much. Happy New Year to you too, my friend. So, we're saying Kenneth, this guy here. But yeah, guys, so that's kind of the rant in general. I wanted to, I've talked about the EVs. I've said, look, there's a lot of good things about them. There's a lot of crazy things you can do with electric motors. There's all of that, but that's not why I like EVs. Look, the smugness has got to be engineered out of the cars. Dodge has got to, as soon as they can, start marketing those things as rowdy, freaking playthings, the same way that they did with the Challengers and the Chargers. They can't make another boring EV. Because to me, that's basically brand suicide as far as I'm concerned. If this thing's not smoking all four tires at about 100 miles an hour in a four-wheel drift, I'm going to be pretty bummed out. I want to see something that is going to get me excited. Bring me something that is awesome. Because so far I'm not seeing it. And everything that I'm seeing from these other manufacturers is so boring and mundane from every angle that I just can't get behind it. And without the sound, all you have is the speed. And when the speed is the only party trick that you have, that doesn't go far enough. There's no fun that I'm seeing. And without the fun and without the presence, there's no cool factor. How am I supposed to drive the thing and feel excited when there's no other sensation that's getting stimulated? There's no sound. There's no rumble. There's nothing. I mean, I guess you could engineer that in with speakers or something, but that's not what I'm looking for. That's what a lot of guys are going to miss. And that will be the sour grapes argument when a lot of these EV hot rods start hitting the market. Yeah, it's fast, but et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really more a part of an argument for a why I love EVs, or why I could love EVs, or why I could learn to love EVs, is the trollability factor. And I can get into the maintenance, and you don't blow up electric motors, and you can't send rods hanging out the side of an electric motor, and you can't frag an electric motor transmission, maybe. But the reality is, there's just no visceral drive for me to jump in the middle of it. And again, you just can't sex it up. With all the fast and tire smoke and everything else, it's always going to be lacking something. And I'm afraid that the one thing it'll be lacking is soul. It'll be lacking the buyers that get excited and want to drive these things. The thing is that on one hand, the muscle car isn't dead with an electric motor, but it might be the only way you'll be able to get a muscle car. That's the other side of this. The electric car, its blessing is its curse. It's the whole reason why people don't like it is it doesn't make any noise. It doesn't do a lot of really cool things. But we have exhausted the capacity of 93 octane to manage and knock in these big supercharged or naturally aspirated high compression engines. You just can't squeeze, literally, of the suck, squeeze, bang, blow the famous suck, squeeze, bang, blow auto cycle, the 4-cycle, you literally can't squeeze any more power out of 93 octane. So what do you do next? Well, E85, maybe, but now we're talking about a range-limited liquid fuel that's tough to get a hold of. Crap. So now we're left with electricity. I thought we were just complaining about electricity, but if you want to make power, the likes of which you're making on gasoline or even E85, if you want to make that kind of power, you have to go to electric. It's the next evolution and fast. And unfortunately, this is what I hate about EVs, but this is also what I hate about, well, the internet. If the internet has taught us anything, is that numbers matter. 0 to 60, quarter mile times, 60 to 130 numbers. That's what sells. That's what people are watching when they watch these videos. So when you take that into consideration, you're not going to get faster than an EV. And you say, well, you can mod so-and-so to do this and that. Look, yeah, you can mod anything to go fast, including an EV. Could you imagine an EV with all the torque management stripped out of it on a pair of slicks? Holy crap. I mean, you'll be talking about EVs running 7s soon. 7s. And these are cars that don't break. These are cars that you just have to charge up. You don't have to worry about blowing them up. You just press the throttle and go. So that is an argument that is incredibly unfortunate, but it falls into the EV's favor. We just can't get any more power out of pump gas. And since power keeps going up, and it has to keep going up, well, this is how you do it. And you can say, well, you can run hybrids. Hybrids are transitional technology in this business. They're not the fastest. You can kind of hybridize these things, but the general accepted understanding what a hybrid is, EV would walk all over it, at least in a straight line. And that right now is the biggest issue, is that the fastest production car in the world is an EV. The fastest sedan in the world is an EV. Not looking good. And internal combustion is not even trying to play catch up right now, which makes it look even worse. So it's saying exactly horsepower and everything in drag race. I try to explain 14 gears to a non-car guy and it's hilarious. Oh yeah. I just, it's hard to have that conversation. Faithful saying, wonder if 100 plus years ago, the folks back then had the same dilemma, companies as the folks today, about trading in their cool horse for the first internal combustion car. It's human nature. Well, that's one of Henry Ford's famous quotes, or at least a quote that's attributed to him, is, if he wouldn't have brought out a car, if you ask somebody that owns a horse, what would you rather have? The guy would say a faster horse. People just go with what they know. And, 100 years ago in certain parts of the country, EVs were the only practical mode of conveyance. So there's that to consider, if nothing else. I mean, you're looking at a situation where the EV is so good at what it does that it's almost gotten too far away from what would make it cool, what makes other stuff cool. The EV is nowhere near it. It is clinically, it is sanitarily like a scalpel, so much better than an internal combustion engine. But it lacks soul. And again, soul is something that can be contrived. Again, this is a marketing issue, but I'm just not seeing it. And I don't know why that is. Look, I guess if you're Tesla, you don't have to advertise, at least not in video format. And it's a shame because there's so many guys that I think could get turned on to EVs if you only had an understanding as far as the convenience of the thing alone. But then you go back to all the other questions that we've already discussed. Economic impact, environmental impact, cost to the grid, which we haven't really gotten into, but it's a minor player in all this by comparison. So I guess for me, if I were to sum it up, why I just can't fall in love with the EV is because I'm not getting any love from the EV manufacturers. You got to give a little to get a little, and I'm just not buying it yet. So anyway, let me get back to you guys here. Sovereign's saying if anybody can pull it off, I think Dodge can do it. Oh, Canada guys talking about Ford's Mach-E race car. Yeah, that's, what's his name? Hoonigan driving that thing. That thing is sick. It's got 6 electric motors or something like that. Speed Maniacs in saying EV cars are not muscle cars. There's no excitement, no soul, and everyone instantly thinks they're car guys when they race those cars. True that. Chuck saying what I think would make any trim level for Challengers even more fierce would be an all-wheel drive option and rear-wheel drive models to say old school. If you can make it work, you know, if you can make the all-wheel drive system be able to handle the power. Canada's hanging out with Chuck. Let's see. 9 say, B makes my car stutters while accelerating from 140 up. What do you think I can do? I don't know why it would be stuttering. At about 140, no real reason for it to be stuttering. I just don't know. Check fuel quality. Make sure it's not hitting. You'd have to have it on a data log, honestly, to see what the issue is. Are you throwing any codes? Faithful saying, how do you know that they don't pipe in cool motor sounds to make the experience more exciting? The thing is piping in cool motor sounds is in of itself not cool. I would rather have it be more. It needs to have more of a sense of humor than that. Like I say, the Jetsons sound, fart sounds or something. It's got to be something other than cool motor sounds, because the thing about the motor sounds is that there's cadence with the gears changing. And that's part of the experience. So it's okay. I'll give you another example. CVT transmissions. There is a reason why CVT transmissions now have built into them and programmed into them significant steps as they are ramping up in gear ratio as the car is moving forward. It's because people complained like crazy that you'd give the thing throttle and it would just, now the CVT is working and the two cones are coming together, but the engine stays at a specific RPM and it never changes, and it's just boring. So that's why CVT transmissions do what they do today. It's kind of a weird thing, but that's why they do what they do. And I drove it was a Nissan, was it a Rogue? What was that damn thing? Anyway, I had one as a rental car in Georgia at one point in time, and I took the thing, I was out, playing around with it in some of the back roads, and it was just weird because you could floor it, and it would hang the thing at 6,500 RPM, and it would just go wah, and it was just really weird because you're driving this thing around, it had no power, but you're driving this thing around and you're accelerating, but the sound of it just stayed the exact same. I'm not saying you won't get used to it, and I'm not saying that there aren't other sounds that you will start to pick up and learn that are indicative of high performance. I've mentioned the tire sound before. You're going to hear other things other than the engine that you're going to cue to. But that being said, Would you rather hear tires or would you rather hear a V8 screaming? So, George is asking any thoughts on the factory security update for the Hellcat 392 cars. It's basically, it's what it is. It's a code you can type into the thing if you activate it. It's a good idea. You can neuter your car through valet mode the same way now, but that one is a lot more aggressive. It just basically kills the power. In my tune, I'm actually going to change something in my tune to where when I put it into valet mode, it'll only let it go like 30 miles an hour. But yeah, the only thing I don't like about the code thing is if you want to lock it, or you'd have to, can you put it in valet mode? And I don't know. I don't really know how it works. Like for me in my tune, I can go in and say, okay, for valet mode, you're only going to allow 8% of total throttle input. I can change all of that in the tune. So for me, I can just do that through valet, and that would ruin somebody's day if they tried to steal it. So, or I can just say, okay, well, valet mode is now this, and then the black key mode only gives 20% in terms of throttle input. So there's ways around it. I don't know. I just don't want to take my car to a dealership and have them mess with it. Sovereign saying electric all-wheel drive Viper, let's go. That would be sick. Ruben saying EVs lack soul 100%. The EV owners think they can beat everything. They don't realize that drag racing involves talent on the tree, and you can win. Yeah. So, yeah. I have an EV. I'm a race car driver now. Well, when it literally does everything for you, makes it kind of tough to get excited. Oh, Faye was saying, I think EV muscle combined with new tech and sounds, it will be a total success. They know that it's coming. Have faith. Maybe it is. It's already here in terms of performance. So if what we are to believe is what the internet has told us, that numbers are the only things that matter, then the Tesla Plaid kind of wins that argument. Lots of really cool tech with that car. And you can pipe out sounds in the Tesla Plaid if you want to. So, what's coming? Lots of cool things are coming. And when it's all electric, you can do all kinds of really cool things. So it's definitely something to be excited about. But, and again, I've made a lot of points as to why I like EVs, but the smugness, the holier than thou, this whatever new religion of environmental friendliness, which is a farce, by the way, one of the big issues that I have with EVs, we're talking about environmental impacts earlier. The issue that I have with EVs is the conspicuous omission of facts when it comes to actual pollution that the cars create by driving around. Have you ever looked to see what the carbon footprint is of your cell phone? What's the carbon footprint of a laptop? Seriously, look it up. It's a lot higher than you think. Have you ever thought about how much electricity that your laptop consumes or your phone consumes or what have you? There is a way to calculate that because they run on fossil fuels. That's right. Your cell phone, if it's plugged into the wall, statistically speaking, is being charged up by coal. You say, yeah, but it's not, my phone's not sitting here idling. It's not emitting gas, right? Well, maybe not, but the power plant sure is. And there's people that work at those power plants, and there's communities that are grown up around power plants. You're not making their life any better when you turn your lights on, but you don't seem to have a problem doing it. You don't have a problem thinking about those poor people working in the plants and living around the plants when you plug your cell phone in or when you fire up the blender. So where are they in all of this? I mean, if you're going to be holier than thou on everything else, do those people not matter? Is there a certain amount of square mile radius around a power plant that you don't have to care about anybody that resides within that, but everything else is like, that's clean, but this one area isn't? It all boils down to public health, right? If we're talking about the environment being saved, which is kind of hysterical when you think about it. But if that's the case, then no, it's really only your environment that you're worried about. It's your backyard. It's your walk around your park that you're worried about having to hear a car or having to deal with, I don't know, an internal combustion engine of any kind. You're not talking about somebody that is excavating the material for the battery. You're not talking about the ships that are carrying that over to wherever they're going for processing. You're not talking about that for the guy in the diesel truck that's hauling the EV to the dealership. You're not talking about that whole process. That doesn't seem to matter. But the fact of the matter is that, it's a zero emissions vehicle. It doesn't work like that. Physics doesn't allow for that. So that kind of smugness, that disregard for the worker that's putting your car together, or the disregard for the people that are working in the plants so that you can charge your car. It's funny how those folks get lost in this equation. So sucks too when you think about it, because those folks can't afford the EV, statistically speaking. Getting back to it, Ruben's talking about the Navara. That was it. The Rivian ran the 867. That was nasty. Someone's saying maybe electric cars can have a new sound we never heard before. They actually sound kind of neat. They have a cool sound and whine to them. Rennie's saying, you hit it exactly, sir. Yes, Plaid is fast, but I don't live at the track. When I cruise on my 392, people look, hear it, and sometimes feel it. I'm excited at 30 miles an hour, and my soul smiles. That's important. Sovereign's saying, hell yeah. Sovereign's saying, let the 392 work its voodoo on you. I like it. George is saying the hybrid would be nicer for distance drives like vacation trips, not always looking for charging stations or waiting for it to charge. Very true. There's a market for hybrids. The issue again, though, with hybrids is that they've got to cost that cheddar. And in a lot of scenarios, they don't necessarily get better fuel economy. In fact, on the highway, they can actually suffer. A lot of that has to do with weight. And that weight wears on tires and brakes and suspension components. So there's always a trade-off. Some are saying an all-wheel drive Hemi Challenger would be badass. I would agree with that. Chuck is saying if you could have the emulated exhaust note, kind of like solid-state amplifiers, it would be cool. They make them for the Tesla. They're a little campy, but you can get them for the Tesla, and they bolt to the bottom of the car. It's kind of funny looking, but they do make them. Sovereign saying fart sounds. We already get that with Hondas. That's funny. Sovereign saying fuel supply. Good point. Red Dog saying cool motor sounds a lot like faux patina. I know, I hate that so much. Cal's asking for a 392. Have you seen anyone make an HP 70 or take an HP 70 and make it stronger? Yeah, kinda. Or do they usually get an HP 90? Look, I'll say this. I have some experience driving HP 70s that Southern Hot Rod upgraded. The issue that I had with those is that they shifted harsh as hell. And we're not talking about a firm shift. We're talking about, damn, this thing is rowdy. As far as will they handle the power, it depends on how much power you're pushing through it. If it's me and I'm spending money already anyway, and I've got a functioning good HP 70, I'd get the HP 90 and get the drive shaft to go along with it, and do that conversion. Whatever it costs, it's going to be stronger than getting a built HP 70, and it's going to shift so nice. Maybe they've made changes. Maybe the valve body is different now. Maybe whatever is different with that setup. I don't know. I can only speak to you from my experience from a couple of years ago. And it was pretty brutal. It was pretty rough, actually. And I just don't know if there's an upshot with that system. So we're saying Nissan and CVT equals crap for sure. So we're saying Demonology's Got Talent showing up. Definitely does. Oh, Cody's saying people forget the Tesla makes 1,000 horsepower right out of the box. Match up with a car of equal or greater power, it'll get close or lose flat out since it tops out fairly quickly. Well, the old Teslas did. Tesla Plaid actually has a good mile an hour for its ET. So, but it is lower than an internal combustion engine at the same power level. Now, it's incredibly difficult to mess with an EV from a launch. There's just too much torque and way too much torque management to be able to even come close to messing with an EV unless you've got significant work done. Even on a tire, it's going to be really tough on a prepared surface. And keep in mind, that Tesla Plaid will do everything that it does on the drag strip. It'll do that on the street. And by the way, you don't have to be in cheetah mode to run 9s with that car. You can literally just pull up to the line, stage it, and mat the throttle and run 950s with it. So, you know, the sexy number is 920s, I guess, if you want to call it that. But the real number is 950s with that car, and it'll do that all day long. Faithful, I got to ask you something. You are really, you're doing a good job of defending EVs with this. Saying, have you ever been in an active theater like at Disney with real sounds, rumbling, and all that? It says, I think you're underestimating future tech. I think you're overestimating how important that is. When I say piping sounds and doing all that through the car, yeah, it's kind of neat, but you've got to remember that there's no change in pitch. There's no change in cadence with the shifting. That's why I brought up the CVT transmission. I understand where you're going with this, but that's not what the car guy is looking for. And if anything, I'm looking for something more novel in the EV. I want it to be more EV. I want it to be futuristic. I want a cool sound. Don't pipe in car sounds, pipe in a freaking space shuttle launch. All right. I don't need it to sound like an old Hemi. I want it to sound like the Jetsons car while I'm running 8s in the quarter mile. It's not so much all the tech. The tech is not being underestimated. It's everything that the car guy is used to already and everything that they have become comfortable and accustomed to. Because again, you're talking to a group of people that more than likely the demographic is significantly older than the 20-somethings that these cars are being marketed to. The car has to have gadgets, gizmos, trinkets, and baubles that are going to appeal to the buying public that has got $130,000, $150,000 to throw around. See, the issue right now is that you're dealing with cars like the Demon, the ZL1, the ZR1, the GT500, the TRX. You're dealing with vehicles that are hearkening back to some nostalgic point, GT500 and Challenger in particular, because they look a lot like their counterparts from back in the 60s, back in the heyday of these cars. So they still do and act the way that a fantasy internal combustion engine would work. You have to remember that you're coming into the conversation with some people that have an understanding that 300 horsepower and a 15-second quarter mile time were actually impressive at one point. Now we're talking about cars that are running nines. It's hard to relate to. So to talk about the technology, it's to say that it's coming, don't underestimate it. Underestimate it? How can you underestimate it? You're seeing the things run nines in the quarter mile. I don't need it to sound any certain way for me to be impressed by a mid 9-second or a low 9-second pass. The reality is that it lacks theater, but it lacks the living, breathing form of theater. See, this is the difference between going to a live theater performance of Hamlet and then going to a movie theater or renting it on Netflix with all the best actors working to put that Netflix movie together versus going to your local theater. Yeah, the local theater actor is not going to be as good as Denzel Washington. But the fact of the matter is that the guy that's up on stage is the human being that's up on stage giving the performance. You've got sights, smells, you've got a look, a taste, a flavor of something that is altogether different, but altogether familiar. I can't get all in touch and engrossed with something on a TV screen in an exotic environment that is put together with all the best posh production that money can buy. Have you seen any of my videos? No production goes into these and no editing. It's all raw and it's just me. It's just like me and you hanging out at the shop. So in saying that, the guys that are yearning for the things from internal combustion engines aren't really caring about that portion of the theater that goes into it. They want something real, something tangible, something that they can feel, but more to the point, something that they can relate to. And in this case, it is incredibly difficult to be able to relate with something that is already unbelievably advanced in terms of technology, or at least in terms of how fast the thing is, which is unprecedented, by the way. I mean, on any level from a production car, at any price. These guys, it's not all about being fast anymore. Just like it's not all about that community play being any good. It's about something that may be familiar, something that's local to them, something that they can understand. And if nothing else, it's something that they can remember as an experience. You'll forget about the movie, but you won't forget about the play. And that's the difference. Besides, none of those pompous assholes will take a bow at the end of the third act. Get back to you guys. Michael, have you ever heard an EV backing up? They have a crazy whine. It sounds pretty cool. They just need to get that same sound going forward. So some of them do, and some of them have a really cool sounding whine that I love. And these are the types of sounds that I want to get used to. I want that crazy like gear whine sound. And I'm actually kind of a fan of it. And part of my whole argument is this, the EV is going to retrain you as far as what sounds fast. I don't have my controllers here, but you see this little guy right back there? That, with this battery at launch, is making about 4 horsepower. It sounds like a freaking buzzsaw when it takes off. It's actually scary sounding. That's what I want the EV to sound like. I don't want it to sound like an old hot rod. I want it to sound like a hot rod EV. I want it to sound like a freaking electric chainsaw. I want it to be spooky. The same way that a shrill sounding V8 at 6,500 RPM sounds spooky. That's what I'm looking for in my EV. I don't want quiet. I want scary. I don't want Michael Myers, but I want freaking scary, right? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for something that's just tameable. So That's really the idea behind it. And the idea of having a car sound coming out of an EV is preposterous, but the sound of a nasty gear whine or a nasty sounding motor that just is spooky in its own way, that sounds cool to me. That's a new kind of awesome. And I would much rather have a new kind of awesome than a fake kind of old school. Kush is asking, how long do the batteries last in the EV and how much to replace them? Does anybody know? Well, some will say that a battery pack on the dealer side can cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to install. But the aftermarket should be able to cover you for probably half of that, maybe a third of that price, but that's still a lot of money. I mean, even if it's a third of $20,000, it's still over $6,000. So it's a lot. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier on with the actual, just the cost of the thing. Can you afford the cost of the car? Can you afford the cost of the depreciation on one of these things? Well, if you bought a used car, maybe you don't have to cover the cost of depreciation, but you might have to cover the cost of a battery, which can end up costing you about as much as putting an engine in a used car. It doesn't matter what the task is. If the green wrench is being busted out, it's all about how much that bill's going to be at the end of the whole night. That tab's going to get you. See, Roy is checking out. He's got a 12er tomorrow, my bro. Peace out, brother. Have a good 12er, man. I remember those days. Summer saying, later, Roy. Let's see. Chuck saying smiles per miles for sure. I like it. Drag radials on the RT Plus Shaker with Pedal Commander have been a great theater driving experience. Oh, that's going to be fun. 345s are still good performers in their class. Sure they are, especially in a drag radial. Chuck's hollering out at Roy. Cody's saying there's a difference between hearing from a speaker versus hearing it in person. The experience in person just can't be matched. Exactly. I mean, look. Who's your favorite band? Do you even have a favorite band anymore? Like, I love Quaker City Nighthawks. I love seeing them in person more than I like listening to them on a YouTube video or on an audio device. I'd rather see them live and in person. You get the sight, the smell, all the sounds. There's more to it live than in a reproduction. Chuck saying Dodge will have its day with a better looking and sounding EV and faster. So screw Tesla, Starbucks, Yopi toasters, Mopars will rule. They're coming, brother. They're coming. Michael saying put some play cards in the smokes. That's so true. Actually, for these, I wonder how the prop shafts are mounted in those cars. Or if you can just take zip ties, long zip ties, and put them on the prop shafts. It'd be about the same thing. Wrapping around in there. Oh, Sovereign's hanging out. Chuck saying, yeah, Dodge does know how to make them exciting for sure. Fable saying, I had the most fun in a sleeper car from looks and sound standpoint, being underplayed and dusting the loudmouth noisy cars supposedly sounding and looking faster. Now that's fun. Well, yeah, it's been done forever, but do that with turbos. In fact, we used to do that with a turbo Fairmont. You could barely hear the thing running and it would run high nines. So happens all the time. You can, I guess, do it with an EV if that's what you're trying to pander to with that comment. But they're not, the thing with EVs is they're not sleepers anymore. I mean, a sleeper is a car that looks significantly slower than it is. Teslas look boring. And everybody knows, at least the Tesla Plaid, everybody knows that it's fast as hell. So it's not a sleeper if it shows up to the party and it's fast. It's another electric car. They're quiet because it's electric. And that's the thing. People are just wise to it. At some point, the P100 is a significant car. P100D is a lot more significant, in my opinion, than the Tesla, only because it was the first car to significantly create problems for high horsepower internal combustion guys. It's the one that got everybody's attention. That car was a sleeper, but it also is what woke everybody up from their slumber when it comes to the EVs. Well, fast forward into the Plaid, and everybody now is expecting an EV to be faster than their internal combustion engine. So now it's the other way around. Could you imagine having a Tesla Plaid and getting beaten by an internal combustion engine? You're supposed to be the bully on the block. What happened? So now I see what you're saying, though. Yeah, but we had a turbo Fairmont back in the day that we would absolutely sting folks with. It was a so the setup, it was a 347, 9.5 to 1 347, had 60-pound injectors on it on a Victor Spider T76 turbo. Was it a T4 flange? No, it was T3 flange, 3.5-inch downpipe, and it ran through 3 race bullet mufflers. So it was quiet, to say the least. We were hitting it with 150 shot, and it ran a C4, a built C4, 4,000 RPM stall, and it had a 75 shot to get it out of the hole. And it was just purged underneath the car. We later had purged it through the intake manifold. Yeah, that thing was obnoxiously fast. Running 373 gears. And that car was a true sleeper. The only way you could really tell anything was going on were the ET streets that were on the back of it. Chuck saying, yep, Sovereign Mopar will have a better EV with badass looks. Yeah, it is. It's going to be amazing. And the cool thing about EVs is I know this is a why I don't like EVs video, but they're so freaking convenient once you get everything set up at your house. Oh, damn. Yeah, then there's that. See, the presumptuous thing about the EV is that you have somewhere to charge it. What happens if you live in an apartment? What happens if you live in a mid-rise that doesn't have inside garages where you can charge the thing? What happens if you live at one of these places and the charging capacity is limited for whatever reason? They just don't have that many stations or what have you. These are all concerns. A lot of folks don't have houses. And if you're renting a house, well, is that person going to be cool with you rewiring the garage to 220 if it isn't already? Some, I think, are rewiring it maybe to 440 to have the 70, 80 amp chargers installed. That's going to be a new thing that you're going to have to deal with, which is going to be a new thing that is going to be a maintenance item, presumably. But that's at your house. What if you don't have a house? Again, so is it narcissistic? What's the right word I'm looking for? Presumptuous, if nothing else, that whoever's looking to buy this car just simply has a house. Not everybody has the same living requirements. Not everybody has the same privilege to have the house, to put their EV in. So regardless, again, of the convenience, the performance, the doodads, the gadgets, the gizmos, the baubles that come with the thing, not everybody has the means and not everybody has the way to keep one charged. I mean, what are you going to do? Run an extension cord from your apartment out to the parking lot? Then you get back into the price of the thing and it starts the whole conversation over. Chuck saying, a Chevy Nova makes a great sleeper. I have never seen a Nova that I wasn't scared half to death of. Because every one down here is faster than hell. Cody's saying EVs are fast, but I just can't relate to it. Yeah, I understand that. Someone's saying Toyota actually makes some kind of a ooh sound. Is pumped through the speakers through as more of an alert for the pedestrians. Yeah. So to give you guys an idea of how bad EVs can get, when I lived in San Francisco, when I would go into the city to visit clients, every freaking day, some pedestrian, some ped was getting freaking shuttle pumped into the middle of a freaking street by a Prius. And this is not that long ago, but the zombies, when they would be walking around just looking at their phone, you know, they're walking and jacking around their phone and not paying attention. Well, the Prius drivers would be driving and zombie driving their car and they're quiet. You can't hear anything. Every day, I actually watched a lady get hit, not going fast, okay? We're not talking about people going 45 or 50 miles an hour. We're talking about people going maybe 5 or 7 miles an hour at the time of impact. And it just basically put the lady up on the hood. And I was behind the Prius that hit this lady. Anyway, she wasn't hurt. This isn't one of those types of stories. This is just one of those situations where you go, there's another one. And every time, but every day, some ped was getting freaking 9-wedged by a Prius. So yeah, they started putting the under, I think it's under 5 or under 10 miles an hour, they have a pedestrian warning sound. Siren saying, George, it's all about them explosions. Doc saying, what up, B? What up, Doc? Chuck saying, just a better sound than what is there now in EVs, B. Doesn't have to be old school emulator. Just my thing is it needs to be cool. Whatever it is, just give it a sound or give it something. And again, I'm open. I don't have there are no preconceived notions. I'm just looking forward to see what Dodge comes out with. I think the Dodge product is going to have something really cool. And I think it's going to be, because I'm a sucker for gadgets and baubles and gizmos and things like that. I think it's going to be full of those. And I think it's going to be really cool and really fun. And that's what I need to see. I need to see the fun. I need to feel the fun. I don't want to feel like I'm giving up so much to get the convenience and the speed, if you want to call it that. And that's another thing. It's only fast if you're not used to fast cars. But let me remind you guys of something. If you guys have a scat pack, let me give you guys a perfect example of this. If you have a scat pack and you put the scat pack on a drag pack and you launch that thing at the drag strip, from a G-force point of view, you're not going to see much different than if you're launching a stock Hellcat for the first couple of gears at least. The scat packs are fun. The Hellcat is fast, at least faster, but from a practical point of view, I could hand you the keys to the Hellcat, you could drive it down a drag strip and have it not really be all that different than what you're used to already. I mean, I know this because I've literally gone back to back with scat packs or an SRT and Hellcats. So yeah, there's some subtle differences, and yeah, one's going to feel a little bit stronger than another, but it's going to feel stronger in a different kind of way. They're fun. And that's the scat packs are. It doesn't have to be blindingly fast to be fun. So that party trick, that fast party trick from the EV, I need to see some fun to come along with it. And again, I have to get back to the boring on this. I get the Mach-E thing and all of that, but I don't ever get the sense that there's, like, you almost get the idea that the manufacturers, assuming that they're even advertising, you get the sense that they're not, it's like, are they not allowed to market it as fun? Is it only that they can market it as a lifestyle conveyance or as like a champion for the environment? Is that what I'm kind of feeling? Because this is one of the reasons why I'm so excited about the STLA large platform, the Dodge EV offering. The reason why I'm so excited about the EV offering from Dodge is because I think it's going to help other people see EVs in the way that I see them when I'm thinking about them in a positive light. When I'm not thinking about the potential environmental issues with batteries and the long-term effects of recycling and environmental impacts of that. Is it going to be cheaper just to buy a new battery or what have you? But when I'm looking at them from just the point of view of being a car, because you've got disposal issues with cars, internal combustion too, and environmental impacts with making those things too. I'm not saying any of that comes free, but I want to see the car. I want to see the EV marketed in a way that is going to be exciting, and I want it marketed in a way that is going to be in lockstep with the reputation that the Hellcat and the Scat Pack brought to the table back in 2015, that the Red Eye and the Demon ushered in for us in 2018 and 2019. That's what I'm hoping that is furthered along with this new EV, that it brings that attitude with whatever comes with bringing that attitude to the table. If they fail in that, which I can't imagine that they would, provided they call me, Dodge, hook a Brian up with a phone call. But no, if they go about this the right way, if they go about it the Mopar way, you want to talk about bringing a ton of people into the fold of performance EV. That's how you do it. Let's just hope that they do, because this is an opportunity. You have to remember that this is an opportunity that it's a situation where tide raises all ships. And if Dodge, when they bring out the Stellantis STLA Large in a mean, nasty, awesome, killer, kick-ass muscle car, it will help to set the stage for what will be acceptable. And Dodge, as normal, will be pioneering this new genre of e-muscle. If you get it wrong, if you get it wrong, you're just going to be following the same lazy river that all the other manufacturers are riding on with their marketing campaigns with their EVs. So, we catch back up with you guys. Let's see. Oh, Sovereign saying, talking about the batteries. Some are prismatic pouch cells, some are modules. It depends on the design and how many batteries. A lot of the new battery technology is amazing that's coming in the next 3 to 5 years. Sovereign's checking in with Dr. Diff. Faithful saying, maybe it will sound like the Jetsons. That'd be cool as hell. Still equals motor sound and fun. Absolutely. Come on. Fred Flintstone has... See, that's the thing. I thought about Fred Flintstone, but it'd be really hard to get pitter patter of feet. That's awesome, though. You got to pick it up and run with it. That's right. Jay Casey say, but I thought about that. One of the first ones would have been a Flintstones reference, but I couldn't figure out, like the Flintstones, it would be kind of funny, but it's hella funnier talking about it from Jetson's point of view. But there's ways you can do it. There's ways you can make it fun for sure. JK saying, you may have already covered this, but can the Plaid smoke the tires? For what it's for your information, Plaid has track mode and runs about 10 miles an hour faster max speed. You can absolutely smoke the tires, and if you can get in there and hack them, it's just a matter of adjusting torque management. But from the fact, Sovereign saying, favorite band, Chevelle? What about Pantera? It's another band from a car, and it's Vulgar Display of Power, one of the best albums ever. Pantera. Yes. George is saying, when you feel it in your chest, that high torque starter whine followed by the first boom and car alarms go off and kids run. That's right. Sovereign saying, Tesla lacks testosterone. Chuck saying, Tesla, granny car looks, race car performance minus the theater. Chuck saying, my greatest automotive day is when combustion beats EV. Chuck saying, what if you don't have a house? Exactly. Chuck saying, I do, but some don't. A lot of folks don't. And again, you got to remember that, you know, the people that they're marketing to, a lot of folks very young, aren't in a position to own a house yet. So, well, it makes it tough. Chuck saying, range anxiety discussion again. I tell you what, range anxiety, true, but nothing will spell range anxiety like trying to drive cross country or at least go on long trips, not only with an EV, but with a car that is dedicated to run on E85. That's a tough one too. Oh, Randy saying, I go back to that cross-country trip and having to plan downtime for charging. Yeah, plus finding locations. That'd be a nightmare. Sovereign saying, Dodge is the excitement. Got the devil horns. I like it. Chuck saying, what about charging time? Are we going to sit forever at a gas station? Well, I mean, there is that to consider, but I mean, you know, you're looking at 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the charge output. It's all based around what the, you know, how many amps is that charger going to be charging at? Oh, Sovereign's checking in with Chuck on a 15-minute yet. Mr. saying, what up, man? My neighbor has 2 Prius and 1 Leaf electric. I just smile at him when I pull in my garage with my Hellcat. Know if I could read his mind. Hey, I mean, you're just burning the gas that he wouldn't be. So as far as I'm concerned, you're doing him the favor. Some are saying that that's kind of, yeah, unrealistic at 15 minutes. Talking about charge time, more like 45. Chuck's saying, so we get to plan half our day around charging when we can fill up in 5 minutes. Well, you know, and so the thing with that is that the idea with the EV is that you can charge it at home overnight. That's not always an option, though. Again, it's a little, how do I put this? It's just, God, it's such a smug thing. Just charge it at home in your garage. Come on, man. Don't like it. It's just, it has an air of something about it. But the thing is STLA large, medium, and small will be available. And STLA small is going to be a city car. STLA medium is going to be your crossover variant. So maybe there'll be some opportunity there for the ability to quick charge your smart car commuter while you're, I don't know, for lack of a better way of putting it, your CUDA, whatever frat song is on your STLA large platform, is in the garage. In the garage charging. Sovereign saying, vulgar display of power and Cowboys from Hell, Pantera, hell yeah. That's what's up. George saying Flintstones, like xylophone sound effects. Yes! That would be freaking hell and badass. Hell yes, that would be awesome. Hey, I'm on board. Look, if you can put xylophone sound effects, the one that goes doo, 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 like when you know, it'd be sick to death. when the Roadrunner goes meep meep, and then the sound of it taking off, that pew sounds like a gunshot. Oh, that'd be sick too. It has to be cartoon based. So that sound would be great. The oh yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, the xylophone sound effects when they're running, that is so freaking on point. I love it. Oh, Sovereign's checking in with Chuck. Yeah, Chuck saying Pantera Rules Rip. Saw them live. Never got to see them live. Probably be a killer show. So we're saying Video Bob was friends with Vinnie Paul. I think he even has some drums. Oh, cool. So we're saying, yeah, Video Bob on YouTube. He's on from time to time. Very cool. El Diablo is saying, I highly suggest that as reading material. Oh, I missed something maybe. I don't know. Summer's saying, yeah, but never do. Hell yeah. Chuck Rice saying, Cowboys from Hell sound when you start your EV. Dude, I'd have respect. That'd be awesome. Hilmo saying, Optimus Prime saying, transform and roll out. That'd be pretty cool. Oh, guys, I like it. Well, guys, listen, I got to wrap it up. We are over 2 hours, and I got to wake up with the Amish, get some work done, and then I got to get Little Miss Chandelier ready for Mopar-mageddon, which has actually been moved up a day. So anyway, I'll try to get some video on that. Should be good. DA is going to look pretty good, especially in the mornings. So really up till about noon. DA is going to be hovering around negative. I'm going to say probably somewhere between 0 and negative 300 to 400. So the car should be running good. I will be pulling the passenger seat out mainly because I got to carry a bunch of crap to the track. And we're going to see if we can't crack that 1012 that the car ran. I am on Mopar Garage. For some reason, they keep putting me in the stock class, but there's a lot of cars in the stock class. And you can see the time slip from that 1015 run that has so many people chasing. So that's official, at least on their side. That matters. But I'll be getting the car ready for that. I will probably go live again Saturday and get you guys some updates and try to upload some stuff over the course of the day, Friday, and into Saturday for you guys as well. So with that, folks, appreciate each and every one of you guys. Love each and every one of y'all. Would not do this without you. Remember, if you're going to send it, don't bend it. Keep it shiny side up. Ray, miss, and love you, brother. And with that, that is a wrap. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. We'll check y'all on the next one. That's a wrap. Adios.